but they would get paid later. And she understood that. So she was giving them drinks on credit, and they would always come back and pay her. And everybody loved her because she trusted everyone and she was always very cheerful. So a statue was built in her honor, and I think that's quite special because usually it's just composers and artists that get a statue, but she was a simple woman who will be remembered forever. And this neighborhood has a lot of wooden architecture, including this fire station on the right hand side. So we know it's a fire station because of the shape and because of the color. Fire stations are usually painted red or dark brown. On the right hand side, we can now see the city fjord, which is simply called City Fjord. I know, quite a boring name. Usually fjords have more creative names, but this one is just called Bifjord, and that literally translates to City Fjord. It's quite deep, like all fjords, about 400 meters, and in the background there is an island. It's called Askøy, which means the estuary island. It's not part of Bergen, but you can see it's quite densely populated, and it's connected to the mainland and to the city by a suspension bridge called Askøy as well. It's 64 meters tall, so actually all the cruise ships and big ships pass underneath this bridge when entering Bergen harbor. And it's about 1 kilometer long. On the right hand side there is an old fortress on the hill. It's the Sverre fortress from the 11th century, named after the king that ruled at the time, called Sverre. This neighborhood is a bit different. It's still part of Sandviken, but you see there's only stone buildings here. And these houses were built during the Industrial Revolution for the working class. And like many homes back in the days, they did not have running water, so people could not take a bath in the house. And there was a German doctor called Dr. Wiesner who believed that good health comes from regular exercise and good hygiene. So he had this plan that these people should have a bathhouse, so he had a fundraising. But unfortunately he passed away in 1888. Roof Dr. Wiesner, 1889, so 1 year later. And then people would come here and take a bath or like a shower, so that in case of a fire they would burn, but they would not affect the remaining area. And they used these assembly rooms to make a fire so they could warm themselves throughout the day for cooking, but they would still sleep in the wooden houses which were not heated. And I'll tell you more about that. This is Øvregaten, which means the upper street, because maybe you notice it's a bit higher up than the main pier. And it's the oldest street in Bergen, and the oldest street in Norway, in fact. On the left hand side we can see a school. It's called Christ's Cradle, and it's from the 17th century. And this was the first elementary school in Scandinavia. But what is even more special about it, this was the first school that also children from unprivileged families could attend, because Norway was always very progressive about education, offering everyone the possibility to it. Now on the left hand side, as you can see, there is a lot of people, because that's the lower station of the cable car, very popular here in Bergen. Fløibanen, this funicular, goes to 320 meters above sea level, and from there you can enjoy a magnificent view over the city. It's been here since 1918, which was built by Swiss engineers and architects, because at the time Norway did not have any experience with such constructions. On the right hand side we can see the old meat market, which is now a complex of restaurants and a Starbucks cafe. Meat was not allowed to be sold in the open, so you had to have like this indoor hall. And on the left hand side, you probably noticed we have the prettiest McDonald's in the land. It's in an old wooden house from 1710, so it's actually a protected house, but it has been given to the McDonald's as long as they take care of it, which they do. And it's also been coined as the unofficial American embassy in Norway because of a very funny incident where during his presidency, Bill Clinton visited Bergen, and he had a lot of conferences and a lot of Norwegian food, so he probably grew tired after a while of all the Norwegian food. So he came to the McDonald's. He actually just secretly came here and ordered something that would remind him a little bit more of home. And then the journalist saw him, and it was all over the newspapers that Bill Clinton has sort of baptized the McDonald's here in Bergen. So just now across the street, and it will be on the right hand side as we are driving, is the fish market. So fish was no problem. With fish was no problem. You could sell it in the open. So this was the fish market of the Bergensers. But now it's actually place where visitors and tourists can get a taste of the Norwegian cuisine. So it's only open in summertime, and you can see now there's not much left because the touristic season is almost over. So it's not really worth for them to keep all these stands open. On the left hand side we can see the statue of Ludvig Holberg, who was a Danish-Norwegian playwright, and he was in fact from Bergen, but he moved to Copenhagen, and he is known for many plays, but he made quite a contribution for the city of Bergen. He wrote a history of the city, and he also coined Bergen the city of the 7 mountains, because Bergen is indeed surrounded by mountains. Whether there are actually 7 or more of them, that's still debatable, but
I'm out of the bus, so I can talk now. This is a view if you Google Bergen. These are usually the pictures that come up. Walk across in front of her thing.
See where the cable car goes up there.
Yeah. Okay. Up on top there, you can see where the cable car from the cable goes up the mountain. This was an interesting painting on the wall of this building.
a lot of young people rent or have maybe purchased, because a lot of people try to buy the apartments they live in if it's possible. But originally on that location there was the first poorhouse for the sailors, established in the 16th century, and the money that was supporting the poorhouse came from the so-called ring money. So especially outside Bergen harbor, ships would dock by tying the ship with the rope by a ring that was plunged in and hammered inside the rock, because there were a lot of ships here and you didn't have enough space for all of them in the harbor. So this money that you would pay for docking, then you would a lot of it was donated for the poorhouse. And then coming up on the right hand side there is the Frederick's Fortress, which was built in the 17th century in 1666 and 1667, and it was meant to strengthen the defense of the city in case of an attack, but Bergen was never attacked, so not a single cannonball was shot from these walls. And one of the most known witch trials here in Bergen was that of Anne Petersdatter Beyer, who was the widow of a priest, who was very influential and she was very wise. Then further ahead, and then on the left hand side, there is a yellow building with a tower, which looks a little bit specific. It used to be a lookout tower for the fire department. So sorry, I couldn't find the word. And then it was the headquarter and the residence of the priest that was the parach of the new church. But actually today it serves as a simple residential building, so there's just regular families living there. There is a Norwegian flag here. I will tell you in a moment why there is a Norwegian flag at the house. You see most of the houses have a flagpole, but first I want to show you these cute narrow streets, very iconic streets of Bergen, and you see the long flag in one of the narrow streets. So I'll explain what's the difference between the long flag and the full flag with a cross. But these narrow streets are very, very beautiful, and probably the most photographed small streets of Bergen. They are cobblestone streets, and the stones in the middle, they have been placed with the edges facing up, because these were streets where horses would go up and down pulling carriages, and these stones are very slippery when it's rainy. Everyone gets out, and then it's important that these become functioning member of the society and they don't go back to crime. So this would have been our second photo stop, but we have to go around because you can see others have been before us. So we're just gonna see then the theater from all angles. This is the national scene, the theater here in Bergen, very special and important building. And we're gonna stop once we take around. So, and then you probably notice the tracks on the street. There used to be a tram going here back in the days, but now we have another tram, a light rail. It's much faster and more modern. So this old light rail has been actually removed in the 70s. They kept the track though, and actually now the museum in Bergen has taken out some of these old carriages that are still in good shape, and you can take a tour with them on some days. But most of the carriages of the tram were actually tossed into the fjord. So we'll come back around here, but just quickly mentioning that the statue on the right hand side is Bjornesterne Bjornsson, which was
I was walking down one of the little narrow streets. There's a place in there too. We're sailing out now, and it's gotten very foggy and overcast. You can see a little bit of the houses along the shore. Wish it was a nice bright blue sky out there, really showing them off well. But you can get some kind of an idea. I mean, they're being cold today. But that's how we get here. So we are finally on our way. Left Bergen about 20 minutes ago, something like that. And we've got a long ways to go. We're going to Amsterdam, our next stop. We'll be at sea all day tomorrow. A little closer here. Yeah, now that way. See a little better. It's cold standing here in the open doorway. Pretty. probably going to do it for today. First day in Bergen. And like I say, we're now sailing to Amsterdam. Hope you enjoy.